He's a member of parliament for Achim Swedro. He's here in the studio alongside Bright Demoji. He's a member of parliament for Botiano, English and Manfro. And you know that the NDC, as far as the Greater Accra region is concerned, have, designated November 21 to be the date when they have their primaries. He's one of the incumbents, so to speak. Who is contesting you, sir?
Yeah, two gentlemen.
All right. And when you come, you don't want to give mileage to your, opponents. All right. So we'll see how that goes as far as we're concerned. And we're discussing this. A former chief executive of the DVLA, Justice Amagashi, is begging Ghanaians for forgiveness after failing to explain a mysterious jump in contract sum from $3.6 million to apparently $9.9 million. Okay, maybe times 3 multiplication. Mr. Amagashi admitted he signed a $3.6 million contract and does not know how the figure so dramatically changed and became 9.9. Justice Amagashi failed to explain the jump in the contract sum that has shocked the public following JoyNews investigations. He was speechless after Parliament's Select Committee on Transport demanded an explanation during a hearing in Accra, and that took place on Monday. And all he could say was to err is human. I have to start with you. Okay, what do you make of this?
It's very, very sad, unfortunate. You know, sometimes, you know, the spotlight is on politicians being corrupt or causing financial losses to the state and blah, blah, blah. But you see, some of these people, when they get this political appointment, they just go and they do whatever they want. I remember, I know the genesis of this contract in 2006. MPP government thought it wise that we should move from the traditional licenses to the biometric one. So, but then NPP government said, okay, we don't have the money, we don't want to commit, government of Ghana don't want to commit funds into this project. So we will look for private partnership to do it. So we were fortunate to get PhotoX, government entered into build, operate and transfer agreement with them. The initial amount that government of Ghana was to pay was $2.5 million, which we did. In the course of the contract, and I'm referring back somewhere back to 2007, 2008, they came back, this company came back that the cars that they've printed and all those things, they've incurred some cost, so government of Ghana should reimburse certain amount. And the government said, no, that was not an agreement. We are not ready to pay. But if you look at the content of the contract itself, they were to hand over everything, the system, including equipment and everything, technology transfer, everything to DVLA at the end of the contract. But when MPP left office, a new administration came. This company went to the new director, the chief executive of which is Patrick Amagashi, right? The same issue that he raised, the company raised during the MPP time, that we didn't give hearing to it. He went back. This time, he was able to find a way of convincing the chief executive officer to append his signature on another contract. But the question is, as a chief executive, as a representative of the government at that institution, there were a lot of documentary evidence there for you to know that there exists a contract, and the contract will expire at a certain point in time. And what are the terms and conditions of that contract? I don't know whether it was a deliberate. And he went ahead to sign a new contract of $3.6 million of hard taxpayers' money, when the equipment at the place at the DVLA should have automatically
been transferred.
Be transferred.
Because it was a BOT.
Yes, it was a build, operate and transfer. So if you go you do this. And I'm surprised that he wants Ghanaians to forgive him.
Well, this is what he said. He says to err is human, but he also made it a point that I have never authorized, I have never directed anybody for the purpose of varying the figures. Perhaps, from what I get and his responses, at the time he signed, the figure was 3.6.
You see, I am not interested in the amount involved. The question is, the contract was supposed to end at a certain point, that is 2012.
But it was subject to renewal, though.
The renewal component of it was not in such a way that the control of the issuance of the cards will still be in the possession
of the private
entity. But should be in the
possession of the
personnel of the DVLA.
So it means that they should have been trained
yes.
in the period of the first contractual period.
Yes.
To be able to man the machine.
Man the machine.
And know its workings.
You see, this one, I mean, it has become, it's like, I'm not surprised. It's the same thing, just pardon me to say, but you see, it's like most of these institutions are not helping the country. And that's the same thing that STL is doing with EC.
Huh.
The same
That's
issue.
what the UNDP raised in their report, because they were also supposed to train.
Yes, and hand over the technology, everything to.
But of course, have a certain.
They will have a certain control. I mean,
yes,
see, you can't
certain
sell,
level because they are technology.
Yes, it's your technology.
Like so they may come in to do maintenance or do training and
periodic training.
Okay, I get your point.
But you see,
but it's all BOT.
It's all BOT. But if you
like
look
in this instance, it's BOT.
What is the interest of, let's say, government in these activities? That's the government. The question is that the government itself, the government of the day, or the executive, do they have any interest in this whole activities going on?
Why do we have to take the argument to that level, but not just look at it within the remit of the institution? Or you think that perhaps the decisions that are taken goes beyond the institution?
Yes, it goes beyond the institution. The institution itself is being managed by a board, and the board is being appointed by the president. So any information or any decision taken that the president is aware. Because the president cannot go and sit at the DVLA. That is why he goes there. He was the one who appointed Patrick to go there, Amagashi to go there, to man the place. So that is why sometimes we have to push the blame to the government. Because if you don't know the competency of the person you are sending him there or her there to manage, why do you make that appointment? And he cannot use his own discretion to authorize such a payment. And at the end of the day, he comes back to say that we should forgive him, to err his humor. You see?
So you're saying we're not for that Christmas?
We are not. You see,
okay.
we have had several instances under this government where we just throwing money as if there's nothing at stake when people are suffering.
Mr. Demoji, what's your take on this?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to cherished viewers. Yeah, for me, this is a purely a very bad corporate governance issue.
Yeah, and you like talking about corporate governance often, yes, on the show.
Corporate governance in the sense that I believe strongly the DVLA have the board, and the chief executives either is a member of the board or reports to the board.
He is a member of the board and reports to the board.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there are various committees that you form as a board. And let's even assume that it was not part of the initial agreement. It was not part of the initial discussions because it's a rolling over agreement starting from the previous government. And sometimes this build, operate, and transfer issues, the technicalities involved, most people don't understand.
Okay, I've heard the company involved, Photorex. The argument that the chief executive makes, he says that because even though it's a BOT, build, operate, and transfer, the technology involved is ICT. And ICT revolves and changes all the time. So by the time that there was supposed to be a transfer, the technology has become obsolete. They needed to make replacements.
That's no excuse.
So
that's no excuse.
So
in the initial contract, all those things need to be stated, because you should know that within a space of time, technology is changing. So those that are signing initial agreement should make space with technology.
So you're saying the second agreement should have taken cognizance of that? Either they wanted to renew or just give them a certain concession,
yes,
as far as that is concerned.
But my whole worry about this whole issue is, at any point in time, state institutions or organizations have problems. Then we, the politicians, we find a way shifting the blame to our colleagues or our friends. Then the technocrats are left the hook. And this is what exactly my colleagues started doing. And if we continue this process by just leaving the technocrats who deal with the documents, who manage the documents, and we are leaving it, all the problems that happen in this country, we leave it to a politician, after that, we'll not go anywhere.
No, but your colleague has an important point. It is a state organization. We know the announcements are made or the appointments are made at the presidency.
Yes.
And we know that at the end of the day, even the board member, a certain percentage of the board members are appointed by the president,
yes,
or so to speak,
yes,
because that's what the constitution mandates.
I agree.
All right. Is there not a possibility, if perhaps we're not just trying to hazard a guess, that whatever decisions that would take involving huge sums of money would have a certain influence, because they will have an oversight ministry, Ministry of Transport? I'm sure the Ministry of Transport, Finance, because they collect the money into the government chest, would also be interested in.
No, this would basically be at the board level.
Wow.
This would basically be at the board level.
So you're saying that it is those people who should be held responsible,
yes,
not blaming the president and all.
No, there are people who are in charge. They are put in charge because they have to manage the place. So if they don't manage it well, they must be held responsible. But if you look at it critically, I just want to congratulate Yoko, because it's a very good signal that
actually Yoko has done a number of investigations around.
Yes. It's a very good sign that some of our state institutions within the space of time are developing, and they are doing very well. Because if I get the whole issue very well, you could see that the money is not yet paid. There's no payment. So the proactiveness of Yoko need to be commended. Because I'm very happy that at least it's not a post-investigation issue. Maybe the money has been spent and everything is gone before Yoko will come in. But in this instance, they are able to come in earlier.
So you're saying the preemptive nature of it itself is good?
Yes.
What do you make of the chief executive saying he needs to be forgiven? Of course, I know him very well, Justice Amagashi. Yeah.
I don't understand what it means that we should forgive him. I don't understand. Forgive what? If the law says that what you have done something wrong, you should be punished. Forgiven by what? I don't understand what we can't forgive you in a parliamentary select committee meeting. You should go and tell that when the process is complete, if it is called, you should go and appeal to the judge and say that. That's the bottom line. I don't think that appealing to the select committee on transport that they should forgive him should be the end of the case.
Okay, now let me just, I know that the last paragraph of what it is, there are a lot of things in there. It was expected that Photorex would have to do the BOT. Yeah. You have said that. But Justice Amagashi in his explanation said they were re-signed because there was no one to take over Photorex from Photorex. It means that the training was not done within the first contract period. He said there was also intense pressure on DVLA to issue because there were backlogs. 250,000. He also claimed that the DVLA caved into fear of public backlash on the advice of the then Minister Collins Dauda, who directed that then they should re-engage Photorex because there was nobody. The director of licensing, however, the DVLA, Cheyo Musa, who I also know very well after engaging with them all this while, described the deal with Photorex as the worst ever signed by the DVLA. You know, he's not a boss, so. He told the committee that DVLA raised serious concern about the quality of the licenses and also identified the operational challenges. He claims Photorex boss also refused to submit yearly reports as required in the earlier contract signed in 2006. And Photorex will not come to their meetings at DVLA. Yeah. What does this say about the company? Do you think there were signs that were showing that we shouldn't have re-engaged them?
You see, like I said, initially government of Ghana, there were some kind of challenges. We want to move from the traditional way to more modernized way of issuing driver's licenses. So the intentions were good. Government could not have that money to start the project. And you receive a proposals from these companies, you look at it, and you realize that Photo S has a good proposal and he wants to help the government. You give the contract, you sign the contract, everything starts. They go through, they see some kind of challenges. They invite you, Photo S, to come back. Since 2006, after the contract, they invited this company several times to come to even make certain amendment changes.
The technology that
they never showed up until we left office, because if they had come at that time, I'm sure many of these challenges that Musa has raised would have been addressed, because that was the first time DVLA was issuing biometric licenses. So there was opportunity for them to even look at some challenges associated with the issuance and then correct it. That was why, and if you look, it's very sad that at a point in time, Photo X became one-man show. And I was wondering, yes, when you read, it said it became one-man show. He sacked all his employees and became one-man show. He, the managing director, was controlling everything. He has sacked the employees. So how can you work effectively? This big institution issuing licenses to thousands of people with only one person. And Justice Amagashi saw this. When you came, you had every opportunity to either renegotiate or terminate the contract. But you went ahead to sign because there was a backlash. He's just telling us that there are no other companies equally competent that could have even done the work if even Photoyasa refused to transfer the technology to the employees at the DVLA. It's sad. So
you're saying that the opportunity was there for some kind of remedy.
For some kind of
amelioration of the problem.
Yes, but they didn't do it.
I think he has a great point. Kenny has a great point.
He has no point. He has no point.
I think he does, though.
Because no, from day one, the person refused to perform. And you have not, you the original people who signed the agreement, allow the person to continue.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. It's the same. You're on the same.
Yes,
page.
That's what I'm saying. Is
you're on the same page.
So this you have to from day one.
You see, the contract was signed in latter part of 2006, 2007, as they are doing.
I hope you guys are not doing politics with this.
No. We realized there was some.
Because we're going to talk serious politics next.
Yes.
So don't start the politics.
Then let me hold my.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is
all right.
There's an agreement. And usually, the first phase of the agreement is the best point to terminate.
Okay.
Because if the person is not able to meet the first stage.
I think the first stage he did well.
He did well.
But then
they were the first about the quality of the cars and all those security challenges. So we were calling him to come back.
Yes.
So that we will look at how.
So it was his inability to be able to meet some of those things. Yes. That's why the renewal
you don't renew it. Why should you renew it?
I think that if perhaps the chief executive has stood his ground, just a little bit, perhaps. The NDC Greater Accra chapter met. You met yesterday?
Yeah, I wasn't part of it.
You were not part of it. You deliberately skipped the meeting.